Yo, 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 how is it going? Welcome back to another episode of the show. It's your boy Zabi here from tunecreators.com. And on this podcast, I'm bringing you some of the most finest upcoming artists out there. And I'm hoping that through these interviews, you're going to learn from them, what they're doing that's working, and use those to improve on what you're doing and take your own music to the next level. So if this is the kind of stuff that you're interested in, you know what to do. Hit that subscribe button wherever you're listening to this so that you don't miss anything. Now today I've got another awesome artist for you. His name is Garth and he's a singer based in Canada. And Garth has to be one of the most interesting artists I've ever had on the show so far. And I say so because he's got a very unique business model. He's built a really cool business around performing concerts and teaching workshops to schools across Canada. Very, very unique indeed. Now, what I find even more interesting about what Garth, or even more cool about what Garth is doing, is that he's been able to take this business to a point where he now does it full time. And that's something that a lot of artists would like to do. And he's achieved that, which is, man, big kudos to him. In this episode, Garth and I talk a lot more about this business because I wanted to know everything about it. And we talk about how he got into it, how he started, stuff like that. And he shares what I think has to be the best practical tip at the end so far. And you're gonna learn a lot from this episode. There's so much that new artists could learn from Garth, and I'm really grateful that he came on the show and delivered so much value. So Garth, thank you so much. Anyway, enough from me, and as always, I know you're gonna love this episode. So without further ado, let's dive into it. What's one album that you think every artist needs to listen to?
So an album that I personally like, I mean, it depends on genres and stuff, but I kind of grew up mostly in the 90s. So for me, there's an album by Blackstreet. It is called Another Level. And and everybody knows No Diggity and that kind of stuff. They know that. But if you really sit down and listen to the full album, you will really, I guess, respect the work that the producers were doing, the harmonies of Blackstreet and stuff. And I kind of wish they were able to do more of those kinds of records. But I really like that album.
Yeah, that name hasn't been in my radar for a long time. But those guys were really. They held themselves in the days of Boys II Men and all these other guys. They held their own. So yeah, No Diggity. I'm gonna have to check that one out actually, because this podcast has been allowing me to listen to a lot of music, like new music from you guys. So yeah, cheers for that. I really like it.
Yeah, it's called Another Level is the album. And like I said, for me, No Diggity is one of the worst songs on the album, but it's the single, right?
Really?
No, seriously. Like, I'm not even joking. I'm saying you gotta sit and like listen to the album.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like it's No Diggity is the single. That's pretty much it. But it's not by far. It's not the best song.
Yeah,
but it's the one radios would love that one for sure.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. To be fair, I've got to be honest. Yeah, that is the only song I know about Backstreet. That No Diggity. I'm gonna listen to it after this, and I'm gonna give you feedback based on what I think.
By all means, yeah.
Awesome. Okay, let's dive into your background as a musician. Now, where are you originally from?
Yeah, so I'm from a country called Namibia, and that's where I grew up and everything. I'm now based halfway across the world, though, in Canada, in a place called Edmonton. So that's where I am, and I've been here for about 12 years. It's going to be 12 years soon. Yeah.
Wow. And what took you to Canada? Why did you move from Canada to Namibia?
I used to tour with a choir and sing, and we used to do like trips mostly to Europe and performances with the choir there. And then we came to Canada on tour, and I met a lady, a young lady on that tour, and we had this long distance before it was, easy to do it, like a
Yeah.
long distance. We had a long distance relationship, and I tried to convince her to move to
Namibia.
Namibia, and she wouldn't have it. And so, in the end, I packed up, and I moved to Canada, and yeah, we've been married ever since. So yeah, so this so that's my wife Michelle, and we have two kids, and so yeah, we live together here in this home. This yeah, this is our space. That's why you see it's nice and kid friendly and
Kid
everything.
friend.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So yeah, that's my story of how I ended up moving here to Edmonton.
Yeah, that is so cool. That's such a awesome story. Like you should do like a movie, a mini movie of that or something like that to tell
Yeah.
your story of how you got to.
Okay.
Because of Namibia is speaking of is one of the better countries in Africa. I've heard things are quite all right there. Do you go back often, or have you been back since you?
Yeah. So I mean, for the listeners, I'd recommend there's like there's actually a small documentary called Memoirs of the Motherland,
Hmm.
and that's actually about when I went back to Namibia for the first time after. So I was gone for 9 years, and then I was doing what I do out here in Edmonton, and then I sort of made an announcement I'm going back, and then a
Hmm.
film crew just picked up on the idea, and they said, oh, that's interesting, we'd like to see what's going to happen when you go back, and can we capture that. So I took a small team with me. So I think come to think of it, the camera guy was from the UK, and then the
Hmm.
you know the director producers were from here, from Edmonton, and so we took a little team like that,
Hmm.
and I went back. So I've been back twice. The first time was for that initial going back, more career oriented, and then last year I went back to take my kids there for the first time, because my kids had never been there. They're all kind of like, I don't want to say all grown up, but they're older now, so they're 7 and 10. So I took them to kind of see what it's like back home. So I've been back twice in
Hmm.
12 years. Yeah.
Oh. That's good. That's good. The motherland. I'm gonna check that one. I'm gonna drop the links as well in the show notes for everybody that wants to check that out as well. Yeah, it sounds like a really
Yeah, yeah.
cool documentary. Thinking I might have to do something like that for myself because I've been away longer than that. So if I ever go back, they might need like a whole camera crew to film that. Oh, okay, that's really awesome. Now let's talk about your music. Now, do
Yeah.
you come from a musical family?
No. And
Ah,
so I mean, I have to be
mm,
honest. Like,
mm,
if my dad ever watches this, we'll have a nice debate about it. But um, initially, because my mom and dad, they're not musical
mm.
themselves. They just were trying to figure out, like, what am I trying to do here? Like, what, like, what is this? What's up with you, man? Like,
Yeah, I
why
know, I know,
can't you
I
just
know.
do the other stuff like everybody else? Uh, what's going on? So I had a lot of that in the beginning, and my dad was, very sort of, like one of those guys, who had a job. He worked in a mine, so back home, and it was a great job that he had. It was a US based company, and
Mm,
and so he worked in one of those mines. So he had a really good job, and my mom was a teacher, and so they had like kind of more traditional jobs. And my dad worked for one company for his whole life. He's that
mm,
kind of personality, and he worked himself up in that company.
mm.
So for him, what I was doing, or what I was trying to do when I was coming up, it seemed like a phase I would grow out of this music. Like, I'll leave that guy.
Oh,
He's gonna grow out of it. And so, but he had no idea. And my dad's
okay.
really funny, because now he says, no, I always encourage you. I always I always told you, do what you love.
Well,
That's what I said. I'm like,
yeah,
oh, you said that.
yeah. I can
But
totally relate. Yeah. African
that's
parents.
parents. That's
Yeah.
parents.
Yeah. Yeah.
He was looking out for me in his
Yes.
own way, you know.
Yes. How did you get into music though? If like, was it through church or because you performed in the choir?
Well, it was like that was a community choir, and
Oh,
so
okay.
I did my own thing, man. It was like what was big back then? Of course, like the Blackstreet stuff, music. Boyz II Men was big. A guy called Brian McKnight was really big back
Mm,
then, and so I used to listen to that, and I started like singing like their songs,
mm,
you know, at like talent shows. But it was
mm.
really bad because you had to like you couldn't find an instrumental for it. So I had to take the same song of the guy and I
Then
just had to
sing a
make
little bit.
my microphone louder than his, you know. That's my hustle. And so that's what I
Oh,
did, man. And people
oh,
said, hey, man, you got to join the choir. You got to join the choir. And the choir was well known in the district, you know, like the
hmm,
area. And I wouldn't do it, man. I was like, I'm not gonna join the choir. And then the choir went on on an international tour to
hmm,
Germany.
hmm.
And when they came back, I said, "Oh man, you know, like I think I should join
It's
because
good.
these guys are they're getting trips, you know, because they didn't have to pay for those trips. Like it
Ooh.
was you know all part of the program. So the
Oh,
choir was free because it was generating money through CD sales, and it was
oh,
performances and shows in Europe. People would pay for those shows, and then it also had a corporate sponsor. So the
hmm,
program was free, and you get to travel. And so I was like, okay, you know what? Let me try it. And so I auditioned. I think I was 16 years old when I auditioned, and you're technically kind of supposed to join when you're around 13, so you
hmm.
can get a lot of years out of the whole youth choir thing, you know.
Program. Yeah, I see.
So
Yeah.
so
Hmm,
that's when I joined. Like it's kind of like a choir, and we sang lots of stuff, classical, blah blah blah.
hmm. I
But
see.
that gave me the first understanding of like, okay, how does it all work? You know, to take something and to make it feasible. Let's just say
Yeah,
that, you know, to make it
yeah.
feasible because that choir was working. It's still going today, so it was working. You know, it was something that had a large following, good
Hmm.
support, and I even like over the years learned that the choir was out it was outselling in terms of CD sales. Back then, that's what you counted, right? We counted CD sales. Um, so the choir was outselling the country's top commercial artists.
Ooh. Oh
Yeah. So
wow.
so I was really shocked. Like I'd never known it. I always sung, and so it opened my mind, I guess, to there might be a different way to do things.
Yeah.
There might
Yeah.
be like there might be some other way or something.
Yeah.
It opened my mind to that. And like I said, they didn't do music videos. That was the thing. Everybody did music videos back then.
Like,
It's kind of like gotta have music video.
oh,
And so everybody did music videos. So they didn't do that. They
hmm.
just sang like live, and mostly they
Wow.
sang for tourists, and then they had their CDs. They had good relationships, I guess, with the stores. So the
Huh.
stores, like the record stores, they don't exist, by the way, anymore.
Anyway.
those stores, they don't exist.
Damn.
But those stores, they knew that like whenever the choir did a product like a CD, it was high quality. They
Yeah.
knew like the reputation thing. So if a tourist was to come in and ask, I'm looking for blah blah blah, something traditional, something to, then they would be like that would be
Recommend
the
this.
number one
Ah.
recommendation would be ours. And my voice and my name and everything was on the CD a lot because I was a soloist for the choir.
Uh.
So I got a good feel for like professional recordings, I would say. Got that. Like we did some good ones so with
Yeah.
the choir. So I learned the game. Yeah.
I think that's such an amazing way to kick off your career, man, with something that's already established and already structured that way. So, like you're saying, you're gonna learn so much from them, and geez, that's
Yes.
hmm,
And those sound engineers, like
hmm,
they knew me from like that age of 16, and like 5 or 6 years later they just kind of saw me grow. And
hmm,
one of my first big breaks came from the same sound engineer that was recording the
hmm,
the choir for so many years,
hmm,
because we had a show, and and the choir sang one of our original songs. We were a small boy band. Boy bands are a big thing back then. So we made our own boy band
Good.
in the choir, and we were
Yeah.
doing side gigs outside of the choir.
Wow.
But then the choir was like, "Oh, that one song you sang, it's really nice. Can we
Wow.
sing it? Like, can we arrange it so you sing it with the choir?" And so we did it.
Wow.
And so the sound engineer heard it, and he said, "Oh, that's a single. You got to do a music video."
Oh, good. I am curious though. I am curious because I never shot a music video back then. What was it like shooting a music video back then?
Oh, it was
Yeah.
expensive.
Yeah.
Like, I got to tell you, it was. Oh man, it was thousands and thousands like of dollars, no matter like where you were doing it from.
Yeah.
Because in Africa, and I mean, I want to talk a little bit about like in what they were doing in the U.S., which was a little different, right? Which I think I'm actually doing what the people in the U.S. Have done back in the day. But when I was growing up, it was kind of like you had to find a company or a film direct. Like you would try to outsource everything. So you would find a professional filmmaker to do it, which back then, I guess what I learned from that was a good lesson at the time. It was like, if you work with professionals, like you come out looking like
Good.
a professional, like you do so much better.
Yeah.
We've got, I don't know if you guys get MTV Base or which version of
Ah,
MTV.
yeah. I MTV Base. Yeah.
MTV Base. So our song that we did, the song I'm talking about with that choir, it went on MTV Base, which was back then it was the goal. Like, you made it in life,
Yeah,
It's like,
that was
MTV
big,
Base.
man. Oh, wow.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you're on
Yeah.
MTV. It's a big deal. And so our music was on, so that song was on there. And so I kind of felt like I made it, but I have to be honest, man. It's like it was expensive to make the video.
Yeah.
In the end, they waived the fees for us. But still, if I have to, so they gave us a big break, But if I have to be honest, if I look at those numbers, I'd say, well, no other artist like that I knew would be able to afford it. How would another artist be able to? So it wasn't a sustainable thing,
Huh. Wow. Why did they waive the fee? Did that come from the community or the council? I was gonna say.
It was the engineers and everybody who worked on the project. So everybody had to get paid, right? So it was the engineers, the DOPs, everything. So we were trying to keep the budget really low, so they assigned me to do a job of arranging everything. Like, like say the manager of the thing. They have a word for it, but I don't know what that word is. But they were coming from a different city to our city to shoot.
Wow.
So they had to have some legwork done up front.
Yeah.
So at the end of the whole thing, they sat me down and they said, you did such a good job of this. We want to give you a gift. Because they say we work with artists and we shoot music videos all the time, and the musicians don't want to do anything. Yeah. That's what they said. And they said the musicians don't want to help. They don't want to do this. And so we charge them full price. But what you've done, we just want you to remember that if you work like this, like if you are like hustling and doing everything, and, if you're so well organized that there's, we want you to know that there's rewards for that. And so they said, we're waiving all these fees. You don't have to pay any of it or anything like that. So that's the gift that kind of they gave me. But it stuck with me as a lesson. Like, oh, I can do some stuff too, man. Like, I can get on the phone with, we had to shoot part of it with the prison, and I had to call the prison and be like, hey, can we come and shoot there? And it was weird, to make phone calls like that and to call buses and do all of that stuff. But it was a good lesson.
Yeah, yeah. And how old were you at this time when the video got done?
I was probably like 21 or
Oh, okay.
something like that. Yeah, somewhere around there. Yeah.
That's really valuable experience, man. Jeez, that's awesome. That's really awesome. And how did I'm curious, how did you guys make MTV Base at that stage? Because I was a big fan of MTV Base, and like you said,
we didn't do any of the submissions ourselves because
yeah.
the filmmaker, what do they call it? The director. Yes, the director of the music video. He was well connected in the industry and stuff.
Okay.
But he told us that was his first video that they took.
That got on.
So he did lots of videos, but he's an established filmmaker, so he doesn't only make music videos. He makes other short films.
Okay.
So he told us they took this one, like they actually accepted it, and so there was some charts back then too, and we were on the charts and stuff. But I have to say it straight up, we weren't making any money.
That's the problem.
We're not we got to celebrate about being on MTV. but I know things have probably changed now. I don't know how the process works now because I'm not into that anymore. Trying to get onto stuff like that, but I remember being at the peak of my what I would call my commercial career, and being asked to play a show in my country because we were on the MTV Base, so we got played a show, and we asked them, okay, how much are we getting paid for the show? And it was the government, it was like Independence Day, like a big show, and we were the closers. We were supposed to close the show, and we asked them, okay, so what are we getting paid? And they said, well, we can give you gas money. Like, how much gas does? How much is the gas from where you're coming from? I couldn't believe it, man. We're on the phone negotiating about gas costs this much.
Oh, good.
This is how much gas costs for us up and down. You got to factor in. We got to drive back. You can't just give us gas to drink.
Musicians have been exploited for a long time now. It did just start. Wow. This is the thing, because you guys got really high, got all the, what's it called, laurels and reputation, and still, they still won't pay you something reasonable. It's just stupid. Nothing has changed. Trust me, it's the same shit going on right now in industry.
That's the thing. I don't know.
Nothing has changed.
I don't do so much of that anymore. But around that time too, my dad, he gave me a book. It was called the Business of Music, something along those lines. But it was based on the South African music industry. He had a lot of statistics about comparing the size of the music industry of South Africa to the rest of the world, like to the US, blah blah blah. And so I read that book and looked at it all, and I had also, along the way getting to that point, I'd also been offered a publishing deal by Universal in South Africa. So I learned, some stuff about the industry and how it works. We didn't end up taking that publishing deal because, once again, we thought what we were going to get out of it was too little. It didn't look good, the contract, as far as I think the contract was even it was even stating that we would take on the debt, right, of the record. Yeah. Wow. And back then, contracts like that were just normal. So we would take on the debt. So we're going to make a record together. They'll pay for everything up front. But when the record starts selling, our cut pays for all of that stuff. So it was complicated from a legal standpoint. So we didn't do it. We didn't take it. So those were some of the lessons that I had early.
Yeah. It's a really valuable lesson. Not much has changed. The music industry, a record deal is unnecessarily complicated, and it's just designed to screw the artist, basically. So
it's very confusing. It really is when you read it, and there's some things in there that it's just the wording it can be so tricky.
So true. So why did you choose the name Garth Prince for your
Okay,
stage name. That's a very interesting name.
Garth Prince. So
Yeah.
it's a nice name. My actual name is Garth Prince Sonsky. That's my
Hmm.
real name, and it's from somewhere. Some of my ancestors were Polish. I don't know if you can tell.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, that was a bombshell right there. I didn't. Oh,
Yeah,
really? Oh,
yeah.
okay.
So Namibia is very mixed, right? It was
Uh,
colonized by Germany, and there were Polish people there as well. So somewhere along the line, like my great grandfather, I think he was Polish. So
hmm.
last name is Prinsonsky, but it caused a lot of trouble for me because if I had to like say my name over the phone and then I meet people in person, they're like, oh, well, I had to explain a lot, even on radio, right? I had to always explain. I always had to spell it for people. Like I had to spell it. And when I got married, my wife started teaching grade one,
Hmm.
at some point. And when I went to her classroom to check out her classroom, it said Mrs. Prince, Prince. And I was like, hey, why isn't our last name like on the door? Like, why is it Prince? And she said, well, the grade ones, they can't spell it, they can't say it, they're having a hard time. So we just, decided this is easy. And then I just, right on the spot, I went on my phone and I Googled, like, because my name's Garth, I Googled Garth Prince. And I would try to see if there's an artist called Garth Prince. And this was about maybe 8 years ago or something,
Oh.
and there wasn't. So
Oh.
I immediately bought the domain,
Oh.
garthprince.com.
Wow.
And I've been Garth Prince. I've been Garth
Since-
Prince ever since, and nobody's
Wow.
come and challenged me and said, "Hey,
yes.
that's my name."
That's such a cool name.
It's
Such a
just an
cool name.
abbreviation, I guess, of my actual name, which is nice because I didn't want to have to live up to the pressure of just choosing a name like that, and like Garth and then Prince, and I think it's not tied to any of those artists or anything like Prince or anything. It's just my actual name.
I like it, and I like the background, the story behind it. It's a really great story. I think you should share more of that. Actually, let people know. Help you connect with your fans.
I don't get a lot of chance. Like I said, I don't get a lot of chance to do stuff like this. This is really fun for me to do. Yeah.
Brilliant. I'm happy you're enjoying it. All right, now let's talk about your music now. I think you do music full time, don't you?
Yes, that's my job. Yeah. So essentially when I wake up, I'm responsible for making music. Yeah.
That is really awesome. I still want to talk about this because of what you do through your website is very unique. I like I was saying, I see a lot. I speak to a lot of musicians, and they're so focused on being recording artists. Trying to sign the deals and all that stuff. But you have taken a different path. Could you give us a bit of a background into that? What do you do exactly?
So basically, when I moved to Canada, I guess a bit of my culture from back home and what I love about Namibia, like the culture and the music, especially the music from the choir. I missed it a lot. So I started singing it here, and I actually first formed a band just to perform that music here. And so I had to find an Edmonton group of musicians that could play that music first, which is very tough. But it worked. We did put it together. And then we just did shows, man, like what you would expect. Like I was going at it the way that I was expecting things to work out, which is we're going to play shows. And we got booked and we got paid. It was nice. Like we did get some solid bookings, some like really high paying bookings. So it was like, hey, maybe I can make a career out of this. And then one day I got a call from a children's festival. And the children's festival said, can you do some shows for us? And I said, sure. You mean like two or three? And they're like, no, we need 10 shows.
Ooh.
And I said, what is this? Like, how do I play 10 shows? And they said, well, it's a 1 week, festival thing, children's festival. So come and play 10 shows. And I said, well, I don't really do children's music. And they said, well, it's just music, right? Like, can you just not come and do you want to get paid or what? What is the story? And so I said, sure, man. Like, I might have to change, like, maybe one or two of my lyrics, maybe something, you know. And so we played the children's show. We did 10 shows. And one of my songs, right, it has a lyric called, is this beer or wine? Because it's the barbecue song. So I changed it to rhyme. I changed it to, is this lemon or lime? You know, at the show. So it was kind of the only thing I had to change. But one of the times we played the show, I forgot. It's funny because the band actually cuts out. Like the song plays and then the band cuts out and then I say it. And then the band comes back in. So it's pretty clear. So I was at this children's show and I said, is this beer or wine? And you should have seen the parents, right? And the teachers, everybody turned to me and was like, is that what I think it was? But it was a good experience, the children's festival. It was great. And the teachers after the thing, like after every show, there would be a few teachers because they were bringing their classrooms to the festival, and they were standing by the side of the stage like teachers, right? And they would ask me, hey, can you do this at my school? Can you do this at my school? And I was like, whoa, that's a lot of, you know, like
interest.
Requests. Can you do it at the school? And the first couple I said, no, I don't know. Like, I didn't know, how do you do a school show? Like, you know, my thing was like, will they pay for it? Like, because I don't know, schools I always thought have limited budgets, and you know, I wasn't sure about it. So after that, I gave it some thought, and then I put together one thing where I did what's called a residency, which is like I would spend a week at the school and teach the kids, and then at the end, my band would come and we'll do a show with the kids for the parents. So we did one of those, and as soon as I did it, I knew.
This was what you wanted to do.
I knew, like, this is it. Like, this is it's a completely different way of looking at it, like, as an artist, right? But like, I still get to fundamentally play for the parents of the kids, but I get to play with the kids and stuff. So, and I get paid for that Monday to Friday of work. Like, I get paid to be there and to prepare the children. So essentially I was like, whoa, that's a job, right? Like, that's music. And at the time I was doing any other kind of other jobs that I could do that were maybe at night. So I worked at like the airport and stuff like that as a car rental sales guy. So anything I could do in the evening so that I could like figure this thing out, you know, go and try a couple of schools. And so I did that. And I would say, you know, the turnaround time was maybe 4 to 5 years of like work.
Grinding,
I had to build my reputation, right? But now in Edmonton, I'm sort of one of the more well-known people that does that. So
this stuff,
So schools, basically, when they sit down, they have a meeting. There's 3 like big, programs that they'll do, right? And so they'll choose. It's either mine, or there's a drumming one, like an African drumming one, and there's a hip hop dancing one as well.
Wow.
So schools just basically sit down and say, you know, we want to do something fun. It's called like a residency. They say, you know, we want to do something fun this year. Which one will it be? It's Garth Prince or this or Lucas Coffee or Dance Ed. So you know, I recently learned that's like it took many years, but to get to that point where I'm one of the ones that they will consider, you know, for sure. Like, but it took time.
Yeah,
it took time. It wasn't like just like that. It was hard. A lot of marketing, a lot of hustle. Gotta stress the marketing, man.
No, I think that is very impressive, man, because I really like what you've done. Like, you've been able to, I think you've hit the jackpot with what you've done. Like, you're living the dream, you know, you're basically doing what you love, and making money from it, which is what every human being on earth tries to do, and most musicians are struggling to do because of they either making music or not making money, or they're making money or not making music, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah,
I
I
think
was there. I
yeah,
was
yeah,
there.
yeah,
I was there. I quit music multiple times throughout
times,
my
yeah,
life. I'm about like I'm 30. I'm turning 38 this year, and
okay,
throughout my life, I have to say multiple times. I even officially would make announcements and stuff, but then I just kind of found this. But you're right. I'm extremely lucky that I've also had
yeah,
the fundamental experiences along the way that prepared me. Like, I don't think that I could have done it without the choir, because I learned a lot about the traditional music of Namibia. So
hmm,
when I first started, I just taught the kids choir songs.
yeah,
That's it. Like, it was just like, and I just said to the band, hey, can you guys play along? And the good thing is I have a band that was like, they're really,
ready,
we're
yeah,
playing shows together already. So you have to imagine, like, for kids to get a high quality show with musicians like that, these guys were playing, like they were, we're playing sort of at what we call theaters and stuff like that. So to get a show like that coming into your school, instead of getting, your math lesson that day, it was exciting for the kids. Like, it was a big deal, to
yeah,
bring it into schools all of a sudden.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's really awesome. And is this included in their curriculum? Basically, in term time, you're teaching
Yeah.
them.
So in
Yeah,
in Alberta, the province that I live in,
yeah.
music is part of the curriculum,
Okay.
and music is part of the curriculum for elementary students. So that's
Hmm.
primary, so kindergarten to grade 6.
Hmm.
And I have to be honest, the day I heard that fact was the day where I said, well, it's a no-brainer. I think this is it. Like, I'm just gonna do that because it's compulsory for them. So if your music's gonna be compulsory somewhere in the world, it's gotta be me then. My music, I'll bring it. Because these are people that
Yeah.
have to do music.
Music. Yeah.
They have to do
Yeah.
music. So I
Yeah.
was like, let me figure it out. So I went to school. I went for 1 year because I wanted to read and write music
Okay.
better. So I went for 1 year into the performing, like, it's jazz pop program here, the McEwen program. I did that for 1 year, and then I went to another university and did courses specifically like music for children, so that
Hmm.
I can understand children's vocal
Into it.
range,
Yeah. Yeah.
so that I don't write songs that kind of like
That
work for
children can
them.
sing. Yeah.
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 So I know that very well now. And
Yeah.
so
Oh.
after that, I started arranging the songs, so
Hmm.
that kids can sing with me. And
Hmm.
that was the game changer. And that also is an established community of, like, of educators. They have a certain way of teaching. It's called the Orff Schulwerk. So
Hmm.
they have a certain way of teaching music with fun and stuff like that. So I'm also part of an established system of teaching. So
Hmm.
I'm part of that, and I was invited even to the national conference to present. So I presented educators conferences. So I now teach teachers. So at an educators conference, I'll teach
Teachers. Wow.
yes,
Hmm.
I'll teach them a song, but with videos and stuff like that. I'll give them resources that they can take, and then they can take that song back to their students without me. So
Wow.
that's the next phase of my career.
Well,
I'm working on working out the kinks of
give up.
how that's going to work
Give
and
up.
everything.
Yeah.
But that's where I'm at, because
Yeah.
right now I get paid mainly for when I perform,
Okay.
like
Okay.
when I'm out there and performing. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because of one of the questions I was gonna ask later on was what's next for you, because I could see,
Yeah.
man, you could take this so many places, man. You could really do big things with this, like, baby shark, baby
Yeah, yeah.
shark.
Like,
you know that stuff. I love it.
Yeah.
It's I think you could do stuff like that even when you take this online. It's like the sky is the limit for you there, man. Seriously, I think
Yeah.
you've done really well, man. Really, really, really impressed with that, for real. That's really cool. Now, let's talk about how obviously you do this. One of the questions I ask my guests is how they balance find time to make music, because most of them work and then do music, but you do this full time. But how do you find time how do you balance being a family man and being
Well,
yeah.
that was one of the reasons I wanted, like, I chose initially when I made the announcement that I'm going to do music for children.
Okay.
I actually lost a couple like band members that were saying, I'm not into that.
Interesting.
You know what I'm saying? That's just not what I want to do, and that won't work for me. So that's okay. But so it was a sacrifice I had to make, but I feel like it influenced my decision, because doing music this way gave me a better balance, because now I go to a school, right? And I come home when everybody else comes home. My wife is a teacher as well. So we all just come home at the same time, and it's funny now because I've grown a little bit, in my influence. So now I can even say to the school, I want to leave half hour early because I want to pick up my kids. Yeah. I want to pick up my kids from school. So I think that I have a good balance, but as an artist, I still have that struggle of, as a musician, I just want to work all the time.
All the time. Very
difficult to pull myself away from my work. Yeah. I mean, it's hard, like, to do that. So sometimes on the weekend, I want to write a song because during the week I was teaching, right? So we deal with those challenges. And so what we try to do is we try to schedule, like, hey, this weekend we have to schedule it. We found, like, if we don't, then I'm just going to fill up the time. When I wake up Saturday and I'll just do a song, and I'll get going. So we try to schedule, like, okay, let's go on a road trip, or let's do this. So we have to actively be scheduling it in to do so. Yeah. But I think that I have a good balance, I would say, overall.
That's really cool. Really cool. You sound like you've got it's more than the foundations, but you've got the foundations of a really good thing. I mean, it's working with your life, it's working with your passions, working with the money. There's a lot of boxes you're checking here, man, for real. Like, and you're in a place a lot of musicians would like to be. So this is really, really good.
But at the same time, I have to say, not everybody, I would say, would take an opportunity like that either. Because like I said, I have seen some people say, well, there's a notion of almost wanting to be the rock star type of thing, and it's a little bit of pride, right? So being a children's artist, the downside, I'll tell you, the downside of it is many people don't really like know who I am because I'm mostly working in a school. So when it's kind of like, people are strange. If I meet you at a barbecue on the weekend and I tell you I'm a musician and you've never seen me on television or you've never heard me on the radio, then you kind of like, well, that's not, you're just not like successful. Like, I think it's the definition of success, right? When it comes to
exactly what you mean.
People, they want the viral stuff. And that was the thing, a lot of people have basically outpaced me maybe in that. Like, they can get their song on the radio. And I did those before too. But now I have very little, I spend very little time trying to do that. But I get paid. I sit and work with invoices and I'm like, whoa, this is, I'm going to get paid for this. I'm like, great, this is wonderful. So I sit to work with that. And for someone who has a family, that's more important. Like, it's way, way, way more important. I don't think my wife would even let me keep doing music if I was like, well, I get to be on the radio on Sunday. Like, it's just like, it wouldn't fly, man.
It's true. I guess that's the lesson here in this story, in your story, because of you literally saw an opportunity that wasn't the traditional music side of things, and then you took it and then you created this thing from it. And bro, I bet you're getting less competition than if you were gonna do this the traditional way, because that's where everybody's is, So
absolutely, I'm 100%. Like, there are other people that are doing what I'm doing, but it's also so different.
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
I find like if you're trying to get on the radio, I mean everybody's there's a lineup of artists that are
Yes.
doing it.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
it is definitely different. Like
Yeah.
I don't feel a big sense of like competing with others. I don't
Yeah.
feel it as much as I did before. Like
Yeah.
I don't feel it so much for sure.
Yeah. One of the things I do with my clients is tell them to carve their own lane. But I do that in terms of genre. But you have carved your lane in a career wise. You're literally. So that's something I'm gonna definitely pick up on that. Yeah, cheers for that, bro. Now, yeah, let's talk about the kind of music you make. I mean, you've talked a bit about it, like you've given us an awesome history of your background and stuff like that. And now, currently, you're making kids music. But is that Namibian kids music, or is that what does that sound like, basically?
Yeah.
Or
So
how would you describe it? Yeah.
so essentially, I thought of myself as an ambassador for not just for Namibian culture, but for African culture. And the reason I decided to be more broad about African culture is because when I was in the choir in Namibia, our choir sang music from other African countries as well. So I learned that, and we also always invited clinicians from other places to come and teach us. So, and then when we went on a tour, it would be nice, right, when we did a show to say, what we're gonna sing you 50%, Namibian songs, but here's some songs from South Africa, here's some songs from Tanzania, here's some songs from other parts of Africa. So for me, I guess I know that my audience is children and their parents. I know that, and I know that it's very valuable for them to get music from Africa, because the other way they would get it is like that same experience, right? Is to either go to Africa or go to some artist from Africa's show. So I knew the value of being able to share that. So 80% of my genre is what you would call world music, basically. It's world music. And I can write music that falls in that genre too, because I've sung so many years in the choir, right? But when I talked to you about before my commercial experience when I was young, I wrote straight up, because I was a fan of like Blackstreet and stuff like that. I used to write more commercial sounding music. Like I used to write. So I will still do at least one of those kinds of songs a year. Like where I would just say, you know what, I'm just not gonna think about genre right now. I'm just gonna make the song, because I still need that creative outlet of me as a person, as like, this is it. Because like I said, it's almost like a job, right? Like the whole African music for children. So it's got its limitations, right? Of what the schools will ask me to do, right? So for my creative outlet, at least once or twice a year, I'll just write. Now, I won't always release it. I'll just write it. And sometimes if there's an opportunity for that song to overlap into the other lane, then I'll do it. Okay. But I'll just release it usually sometimes on iTunes or something. I'll just out. And so I have a small fan base of people that just like that side of what I do. And that's when I just sing straight up by myself, and just like, here's a song. I'm just singing a song and I'm singing it my way type of thing. And so I have some fans, and I always get new fans when I do that, because that kind of music travels a bit faster, like online and stuff like that. Like people grab onto it a bit more when I do that. And then people go to my website and they see, oh, he does like this cool stuff for kids. And then got some new fans again, from that.
True.
So
that's so cool, man. I'm trying to see, where do you get your inspiration from? Because you've talked about Backstreet, Blackstreet. Is it Backstreet? Blackstreet,
yeah, Blackstreet, yeah.
I'm trying to see, how do you get inspired to make kids music? Do you listen? Is there other artists that do the same thing that
that's a great question. Yeah. That's a great question. Yeah. If I couldn't actually find other people doing what I did, oh man, shall I just say it? Shall I just say it? It's gonna sound a bit harsh, but let me say that I feel like there's not enough. I shouldn't just say Africans. I should say Black artists that are focusing on the next generation. And I was always of the opinion that if people like Boys to Men, if people like Blackstreet, if they had some kind of a mentorship program, to pass on the baton to like the next people, if they really did that, it would have been amazing. If you could go to the Boys to Men summer camp, or something, and get something. And I felt like that was a bit missing for me, even from on the hip hop side, right? I felt like there wasn't much of it. And I'm going to tell you straight that there are hip hop artists who focus on children and youth, and they are white. So, and they're here based, in Canada. They'll do hip hop programs, and it's sad because there's a huge component of the lifestyle of hip hop and where it comes from that is now missing, right? So whenever I have a chance, I always tell if a person of color or of an ethnic minority I always say, if you can do something, you can keep doing what you're doing as well, but if you can also do something for the children, right? So that they can see, because that was one of the things when I started performing in schools, the African kids, so this is Canada, so, we're a minority here too as Black people. So we have immigrants from all over Africa though, right? So whenever I did a show, like the African kids would always come afterwards and talk to me and take a picture with me. And they were so happy because there's someone in the school like that looks like them, that's doing some music here and now. And we just don't have enough other Black artists that are willing to do that, to go to schools as well. So this is my call out to everybody. Like, if you're watching this and you can do it, I mean, like, usually if you're an artist performing in the evenings and weekends, it's an easy thing that you can add. You can design a small program and you can say, I want to, these are some of my songs that I think I could do at schools. And that's kind of what I felt was missing. So I filled it, like, as in that gap that I felt that was missing. And I was like, well, I'm just going to do it. Right. So that's,
you see, that is brilliant, man. That is such a good point as well, because if you are spot on when you say like a Backstreet Boys or a Boys to Men mentorship program or something like that, that would have been really awesome. I'm sure there would have been such a huge market for that. They would have probably made, a career of that. I don't know what it is, but I think there's a couple of things. I think one, because of the music industry is just designed, it's just exploitative. That's what it is, first of all, and it doesn't empower artists at all. And, everybody's is focused on, this hit-based model where there's a lot of money. Yes. There's billions of dollars in there. So everybody's kind of focused on that. But, that's a really good point. I think more artists should listen to this and be like, let's look for holes that we can fill.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I really like that. And also, a lot of artists are not in the mode of helping anybody, man. They just want to help themselves. So there you go. That's another aspect of that. But that's very interesting. So, and obviously, you've talked about how you found finding your bandmates was a struggle. That's one thing a lot of new artists struggle with, I know, in terms of finding people to work with. How did you go about that? And if you've got any tips to share with a new artist, that would be awesome as well.
Yeah, well, in my case, it was once again that choir network.
Okay.
So the choir network was what really helped. So if you can be involved somewhat in your community, doing something. It doesn't have to be a choir, but it could be doing something musical or something, some kind of organization that's doing some music projects or stuff like that. That's what I would recommend. Like, that's what I would recommend. But in my case, it was one or two really good musicians that were from the choir network. And my choir back home had a sister choir in Canada. So when I moved here, I started the initial project, the Garth Prince project. I started with one of those choir members. And today, like that guy, his name's Joel Forth. He's a band teacher today. So we don't sort of perform together so much anymore.
Okay.
But it really laid the foundation of finding all the other guys, because you have to have something to give to the band.
People,
you can't just if you're meeting a drummer or bass or something, right? If you other musicians, you have to have something, like even if it's a demo. You gotta have something to show them, like, this is what I'm doing. So he helped me to make some of those original ideas, like the original ideas. So we just took it from there.
Really cool. Networking seems to be a really big part of this. Like, and I love your tip about having something, because that's another thing. When a new artist is starting up, they don't necessarily have that. So that's something. Before you start looking for people, maybe you should have a demo at least. So that's really good. Now let's talk about the song you're promoting, which is kind of like a really good segue from your last point you were making in terms of, I think, my energy, what's going on right now in the world and all that stuff. The White Man's World, that's the name of the song, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Could you tell us a bit more about this song? What inspired this song? I think I kind of know, but
this song is one of what I call it, the outliers. It's one of the songs where I did it just as a creative outlet. So I didn't.
Oh yeah, like you were saying, yeah.
I didn't write it specifically for schools. You know what I mean? So like I say, music is still my way of expressing myself and this and that. And so 3 or 4 years ago, I had moved to North America, and I kept hearing about the shootings in the US. But on top of that, I still, you have to know, I came from Southern Africa, where we had apartheid systems, which is the original segregation. So I think I'm more sensitive to it than other people, like any race-related issues. And I'm more passionate about it. And I experienced some, racial discrimination in Canada, so here. And it wasn't, to the point that my life was threatened, but I did feel like I wanted to vent my frustration somehow. And at first I just tried talking to my white friends. I have a lot of white friends, but it seemed like whenever you start talking, they turn it into a debate, and now you're debating. And I'm like, it was taxing, man. Like the whole debate, like you're challenging me about like my experience, but I was there, you weren't even there. And it's like you're investigating me as soon as I'm just trying to say that this was a really sad moment for me when somebody treated me this way. And I think it was racial, because, and here's why I think this. And they're like, well, what if it's this and this? And I have to start defending all of it. And I said, no, I'm not. I'm just saying it because I just want to share it. And so eventually I got sick of that, and I wrote a song called White Man's World. So I'm a black man living in a white man's world is the sort of, I guess, the main lyric, right? And so I wrote it first just personally for myself, and then I contacted a producer that I knew from before. He had produced one of my other songs before. He lives in Nashville in the US. And I just asked him, hey, what do you think of this song? And he said, oh, actually, I'm really passionate about this topic. I think you're right. You're spot on with what you're saying in the song. And I was like, I was happy because he's a white guy too. So I guess I felt like, okay, I'm kind of happy about that he sees it that way. And so we talked about it, and, we said, look, produce a song. You don't have to release it, just produce it. So this was 3 years ago, and after some or other shooting in the US, and we produced it, and I shelved it. And I have quite a list of shelved songs. They're just there, and I listen to them sometimes, But I felt a sense of closure, actually, after I wrote the song, because I wasn't interrupted. That's the nice thing about making a song. I just said what I wanted to say, and I wasn't interrupted, and I was able to say everything to the very full end of what I wanted to say, and it was done. So I felt closure. So I actually didn't feel like it was ever a need to release a song. I felt satisfied that, okay, I sang it, And so, of course, with the recent happenings in the US and everything, I thought about it, and then I realized that there is a potential overlap for this, because I do a lot of Black History Month programs too, and I haven't been able to come up with a really good program for high schools. So I thought maybe I'll bring the song out now. I'll release it right now. And then next year for Black History Month, I'll do some talks about race, and so that was the idea. And so I released it like 2 days ago or something. I just released it because it's timely, but I thought I shouldn't wait for like Black History Month to release it. So I released it now as well. And like, it's so that's how it came about, I would say.
I think it's a very powerful song because I listened to it and like you said, it's very timely. And I love your point about how you just express yourself without being interrupted. That I find I find that as well. Even when I do I have all these ideas about how to market music, and sometimes I talk to artists about it, and I'm always getting people are always arguing with me. I'm like, don't worry, I'm just gonna make a video about it, and nobody's gonna interrupt. Nobody's gonna interrupt me, and I'm just gonna put it out there. Go argue with the video. But
exactly.
I really
argue
like that.
in the comments.
Argue. Exactly. Argue in the comments. So I really like that. So I'm always curious to know what artists' songwriting process is like, because I've got my own way, but how do you go from idea to finished song? What does that look like for you?
Oh man, my stuff is unique once again, because I just have I'm a little bit crazy, I guess, but I almost believe like every song, has its own path. Every song is so different, so every song will come to me differently. But the things that I have in common is, if I have the basic idea, then I would make almost like the chord progression of the song, of the basic, almost like the beat, and I want the beat to express fully what I want to say. So I want to be able to listen to the beat, and the beat already has to say to me the message of the song. So I'll try to make that little beat thing first, and then I think the beat creates that I guess that stage or that platform for me to then, I just, would either start singing and see what happens, or I would start writing down some main things that I want to throw on. And then in the end, I'll have to move it all like around. Now, in White Man's World, I took a slightly different approach. I used the blues format, because I wanted to make a reference to the historical context of African-American music. So I use the blues structure where it's like complain, complain, complain. And that's why I'm a black man in a white man's world, because, that's how blues music works. I use the blues structure, but I added a R&B beat to it, right? So, but I use the blues structure as a reference. And then I left myself a small space, which I always try to do in my songs, where I just will step to the mic and see what comes out of my mouth. If I just, because it's just that final sort of outburst or whatever it is, especially if it's an emotional song, to see what would happen. And in this song, two things. The one time I stepped to the mic, I just had a sigh that came out, like a sigh.
Oh, wow.
Which a sigh of frustration. And I was like, whoa, I can keep this. So I actually moved it in the song, and I kept the sigh as part of the song, because it's just I felt like it fit, like it really worked. And then second time I stepped to the mic, I was able to ramble a bunch of stuff. So one part in the song has that, but the rest of the song is pretty well structured in a blues format. Yeah. So, but each song, like I said, is going to be different. So that's the thing. Make the beat. That's me. Make the beat, and then let the beat already speak for itself, and then go to the beat, and then like do the rest like from there.
Makes sense. It makes sense because the beat gives you like a foundation to build on, basically. So yeah. I like that. I think I do something similar. Even though I got the idea in my head, but then I start off by creating the beat and then build from there. So that's very, very interesting. And what is the most challenging part, or what was the most challenging part about making this track, the White Man's World?
I think this one is because the song is unfiltered, right? So I'm straight up
Yeah,
talking. So I had
yeah.
to be so careful
What you
uh,
say? Yeah,
with
yeah.
every not what I'm saying. I said,
Okay.
in my creative process, I won't hold
Question.
back. It's
Okay.
just I'll
Okay.
shoot, because I want to be honest. Because
Hmm.
you have to remember every song you make, every time you're going to be out there, you're going to be singing it. So
Mm.
if you held back, you just won't be satisfied. So I let it be completely unfiltered. But the challenge was, if ever I went and shot a video, or if I wanted to deal with somebody to come and do the recordings for me for my voice or anything, then I had to deal with, like, they're gonna hear these words. So there were a few moments I had to call
Lord.
the drummer in my band
Yeah.
is Tom Bennett. I had to call him and say, listen, man, can you record some vocals for me? But I have to explain first, okay? The song is not about you, okay? This has nothing to do with you.
Oh,
This is about another incident and blah, blah. It was just funny, but that's what I had to deal with. And so when
oh,
we made the music
Jesus Christ.
video, just a quick video we said, I'll just go into an empty church and shoot it. The church got to
Yeah,
be
I
empty.
saw the video.
And I don't have to worry about that. But at the same time, it represents kind of the idea of that these are not words that people want to hear.
Yeah,
These are not the words that people would like to hear, which I say in the songs.
yeah.
So
It's a
that was the
sense.
big challenge.
Yeah. It's a very sensitive topic. This, but
It is.
yeah,
It's like I said, I don't do something like this often.
Also,
I don't do all my music isn't like this. So a lot of my other topics is, for example, Happy Africa Day is a song about celebrating Africa Day, and I say Happy Africa Day to all of the different countries in Africa, and I mention all of them in the song and stuff. So every song has its own unique thing, that happens, but it always starts with that understanding what the beat or the chord progressions are going to sound like. And I'm like, okay, this feels like it's got the message. And then I will, put that down on GarageBand or whatever and just lay it down. And then I have some time to come back to it and sing. Maybe I'll sing the first verse today and then the chorus or something. And then I'll just work on it for a couple of days until I'm satisfied. But I have to say, White Man's World is one of the songs that when I picked it up, I didn't stop until it was finished, which is sometimes a problem for me, because with my family balance and stuff. But I think my wife understood too that, I was getting that chance to vent the frustration that was previously interrupted, by people whenever I tried to talk about it, like exactly what I felt or whatever.
Yeah.
So that song, that song was more for me, but I knew that there were other people that might be able to relate to it, so that's why I said, released it anyway in the end.
Yeah, I think it's good you did, because of, you're coming from a very good place, so I think it's really good that you do that. Really cool. Really cool. And what's the best part about making this song? Obviously I'm thinking it's you just getting it out there is going to be, but you tell me.
That's it. That's it for me. I don't really, I don't really care about the other stuff so much at this point. But secondly, I would say, I'm very excited about turning it into like a workshop where I can actually do some work with high school students and stuff like that. And I might do a workshop where I do sing the song, and then we also talk about,
the issues. Yeah.
We talk about the song. And the thing is, because the song is abstract, like it's outside, we can sort of say, hey, what do you think about this song? What do you think about these lyrics in the song?
Yeah.
Sometimes that's easier than to say, what do you think about racism? Like we're just talking about a song, right? So it's a nice way to have a conversation. Like, what do you think of these lyrics? Do you think that's better, I think so. I would say that's something I'm very excited about. And I'm going to start prepare it now for February, for Black History Month.
Nice. Yeah, definitely keep us in touch. If you need some further promo with that, just let us know. Yeah, you just come back or something. Yeah. Awesome. Now let's talk about something that I think is even more important than even making music, which is promoting it. You,
Mhm.
we've established you're very unique. You don't necessarily promote to make hits or stuff like that. You promote to get to win business, which I'm all for. That's where I'm at. Is there anything we could learn from you in terms of promoting? Say an artist was trying to promote to get a hit. Is there anything you would say you were going to promote this song now to try and get into the mainstream? What would you take from what you're currently doing to go out there in the world? If that makes sense.
Well, for me, over the course of my career, I have found that like really they're trying to move away from it, but I always found like performing live is
It's
big.
the
Like
best.
if
Yeah.
you because when you perform live, there's something about what happens to you. Like you gain more conviction for the song and
Mm,
stuff like that as well. You sort of there's something that happens. You become a certain way with it, and there's something about how people respond to you when you're there in person. And
mm,
I have to honestly say too, if for me, live is the ultimate test of a song.
mm.
That's how I would genuinely test. So I am releasing a children's album in the fall, like
Okay.
so in close to like maybe around November.
Okay.
And the songs that are on that album, I've tested over the last 5-6 years.
Mm,
They're the best of the best. And our choir, I learned it from our choir, and they were the ones that, like I said, they outsold so many other people, like in
mm,
terms of what they did. But they would be touring 3 years, and then they would take the songs that audiences have loved the best.
mm,
Like these songs always worked live. They were
mm,
good live songs. They worked, and then they would make an album with that, and then they would keep that as part of the live like as part of the live performance. And now
mm.
you can say you already know it's a song audiences love, but now you can say we're selling the CD. Back then it was a thing, right? Now you could say I'm selling the actual CD of the live show. So um, as it is now, I think it's getting harder, right, to do that because you
Right.
can't you're not selling CDs anymore. Oh, by the way, I have to say, I sell CDs and I sell a lot of them because I sell to parents who want a little bit more control over how their kids listen to music. They don't like tell their kids, hey, here's Apple Music, you can do whatever you want to listen. They don't do that.
Oh, good.
That's a good platform once again for CDs. So I actually have to keep ordering my CDs. They come from the States and I sell them at my shows. So for me, it still works. But if I could take something from what I'm doing, I would say it's the live stuff. So there were some songs that I thought, I was very excited about. I have to
Mm.
say, and I would make them, produce them, and then I would sing them, and I would just see, nope, it's not working. And then there
Yeah.
were other songs where I wasn't expecting the results that came. Like I sang it, and people just they liked it. And so that's something you have to keep in mind. That
That is
performing
such a
live gives you a really good gauge for what's up with the song. And sometimes your fans will even come tell you something that about the song, like
mm,
this is what is important for me about this song. And then
mm.
you can use that in your marketing. You can use that to talk about it because you have some good feedback, I would say.
Yeah.
But I think everybody nowadays goes digital really fast, like goes digital really
First, yeah,
fast.
yeah,
And
yeah,
it's just that there's too much content. So think
yeah,
of it
yeah,
as like you're curating your content, like you're
yeah,
testing it, you're putting it through the fire. So by the
yeah.
time you're like, this is the song, then this is the song that I'm
Mm,
putting on a record, or this is the song I'm making a video for. You have some evidence. Let's call it evidence that this is one
mm.
that I like it, but obviously people like it too.
People like that is such a really good point. A really, really good point. Because in business, you want to before you start pushing a product, you want to kind of
Mm.
know it's a good product before you do that. So having that audience feedback is really. I never thought about it that way, but it's really important to have that because if the crowd is liking it, then. Like you and even like you said, it happens all the time. I make a song and I'm really diving to it, and then I play it to somebody, and it's like, it's like, but there's this other one that you're not really feeling, and everybody's liking that one.
Yeah.
That's such a really good point. Oh.
Yeah, but I mean, it's too bad because we are in a situation where we can't do so many live performances,
live stuff,
live shows. But I mean, once again, I mean, if you can find a way to do, like, even if it was me and I was starting up right now, I would do like these concerts where you're performing for like a live audience online. I would do it this way. Like I would be doing a show like this, and I just would do it with all my songs that I have, and I would see, like, okay, what
the reaction,
and like a small investment, like even if you make a simple video of a song, like something like that, right? Simple stuff like that, and just put it out there. Okay, this is the one people respond to. This is, these ones are not. Yeah. And always create, man. Like, you got to be creating. That's the other thing too.
It's so true.
Create. Yeah.
It's so true. I was actually thinking about that as you were talking about that. Like, this is something musicians can do, because this is where technology can help us, get that live. Because Instagram Live or YouTube Live or Facebook Live or wherever it's live now, you could actually you don't need like a massive audience. 5 people, just perform your song in front of 5 people, see what they think. Call it market research. I like that. Yeah, thanks for that tip. That's a brilliant tip. Yeah. Now, God, we've come to the end of an awesome chat, man. Seriously, I've had so much fun on this, and I've learned so much in this. It's been amazing. Like, you have really given me a new perspective into this whole music thing. And at this stage, though, I would like to know, we've talked a bit about it, in terms of what's next for you. But, could you tell us some more? What have you got planned next?
Yeah, so next, like, I'm mostly making my income now. I would say, I think it's 95% of my income is coming from live appearances and performances. Okay. So I'm now, that's a good foundation, I would say. But I would like to make it so that I'm making more money from merchandise, and I'm making more money from being able to create content for people to use, so just developing programs and things. So I put together this idea for a children's record, my first children's album. Okay. But being a father of 2 children, I thought to myself, how many CDs do I have in my house? Maybe 20, but how many books do I have? Children's books, maybe 100, because as parents, you always want kids to read, right? So it's just like a thing here. It's also in Canada. It's very much a part of the culture here, is reading, and it's more compulsory, I would say, than music in a school. Is like everybody needs to read. So I partnered with an author who's from Tanzania. He lives here as well, and he is an award-winning published author. So I partnered with him, and so we made a children's book. So there's a children's book, and it will be with the CD. So children's book and the CD. So there's music and everything. So that's our next phase, is creating like products, because I know my audience, and I know like what they like and what are the things that they're looking for, and so it's easy for me to do that. So ideally, I would like it to be at least maybe like 50% of my income is coming from that kind of stuff. And then I can do less performing, because sometimes if you make all your money from performing, you're always performing. And, sometimes you don't get time to write, or you don't get time to, do other stuff if you're just performing. And I think I was just so happy to just be doing music that I just was able to just, not worry about it. But I think I'm ready to move on to like something new, like something else, like a new goal. Because my goal was to be a full-time musician. That was my goal. And like, this is next. And it's just, like I said, to be more of a creator of content.
Yeah. I mean, and don't forget COVID-19, it's it's literally it's made it impossible for anybody to perform now. So I think that's a really good idea.
Yeah.
That's brilliant. All right, then that's we've come to the end of a chat. And at this stage, I like to ask for one practical tip that you could share with a newbie, like a 16-year-old just beginning their own musical journey. What would you say to that person?
This is going to be a surprise, this tip, but I would say read business books,
Huh.
like any kind of business book. There's authors like Robert Kiyosaki that write books like Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I would say that has been the biggest thing that has been I was influenced me to be able to see opportunities and to not don't think of yourself just as a musician. Think of yourself as a business, and think of
Hmm.
yourself as someone who has a business and who is building a business, from your music as well. And think of it as, think of it as if you were doing any other business, would you also give away things for free for 10 years? Or, would you do it? How long would you give it away free for? Maybe you would run a promotion for 6 months, right?
Sure. Sure.
So that's I always say, read as many business books, because a lot of the things that I've done over the years I've read it in unrelated industries. I would read about it and see, oh, that's what they're doing in those industries, and then I can apply it to what I'm doing. So that is my tip for read. That's
Yeah.
my tip. If somebody's starting
Yeah.
16, that's perfect. Like, you start reading those things, read them now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have no idea how I appreciate that tip. That's like one of the best I've received on this show. Yeah, it's perfect. That's going on a quote on Instagram. I'm gonna turn that into a quote. Read business books, and a lot of people don't tell musicians this, because you said a couple of things there that just makes too much sense. It's like because of one of the things I'm working on right now is all I know about business right now, because I started off as music, is a lot I've had to learn in the business world
Yeah.
that I would never have learned as a musician. So
Yeah.
it's
I'm with
brilliant.
you. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's true.
yeah. Man, God, it's been amazing chatting to you, man. I truly have enjoyed this. So, where can our listeners get hold of you if they want to learn more about you, collaborate with you? What's the best way
It's
for them to do?
garthprince.com. So it's GarthPrince. So like Garth and Prince, but garthprince.com. So my website has everything from the videos that I make to songs or whatever, and contact, all of that is there. And I mean, I answer all of my emails and stuff, and I do that. Like, I try answer, whether it's fan emails or this or that, I answer them, and they're just honest answers. If I can't do something, then I'll say, I'm not able to do that or this or that. But for the most part, I get really good emails about, oh, hey, if it's any kind of mentorship stuff. So if somebody asks me a question about, hey, do you want to listen to some of my poetry, or that kind of stuff, I always, because I'm in this field of educating, I'm always I will always try to help. That's just kind of part of paying it forward. Like I said, I came from a choir where that was the culture in the choir. They prepared me for this career, in music. So I don't keep any of it for myself. So, yeah. And I've done some of those meetings too with artists, and just chatted with them about what they're working on. I've done some of that too. Yeah.
Really awesome stuff, man. Brilliant. God, it's been an absolute pleasure. I have really, truly, I've enjoyed this so much, man. Thank you so much for coming on. I truly appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.